Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Laurel Starks, your host, and I am excited to feature Theresa Bastian, who is coming to us out of Austin, Texas. Theresa is a 25-year veteran in the real estate industry. She is a leader in her own real estate community. She has been in the divorce niche and she got her CDRE in 2020. Theresa also is a member of the Alumni Speakers Bureau, which allows and equips her to give continuing legal education to family law groups. She goes into firms, speaks for organizations. Theresa is through and through one of the top-notch, most educated and eloquent realtors. She has seen markets come up and down, and she also runs her own brokerage in Austin. So welcome, Theresa.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yay. Okay, so Theresa, talk to us a little bit about what got you, what got you into the divorce niche? What was your business like before you got into the divorce niche, and what's your business like now? Kind of give us some of that background.
Sure. Well, I don't know if you know all of this, Laurel, but I got divorced, and as part of the divorce, my kid's dad got to stay with the big box brand that we had been with, and I started independent brokerage because we were not going to be divorced and run our business together. And so I was in a phase of life of rebuilding, and I would look on like Facebook or social media and networking groups. I think, who's doing business that I would aspire to? And I actually followed you for quite a while when you started doing the CDRE designation. But at that time you had to go in person. And I had small kids or younger kids. I didn't feel like I could leave. And kind of a limiting belief in retrospect. But as soon as the program went virtual in 2020, I jumped at the opportunity to take it. So it was kind of the virtual nature of it that finally pushed me. And I also felt like during the pandemic, everything was shifting so much, to have something that I could really, plug into and learn and keep me accountable, that it would be good for me mentally and for my business, which obviously turned out to be. So that's how I got into the divorce niche. Before I earned the designation, the bulk of my business is referral. I do a little bit of online lead generation, but really referral, past clients, my sphere. And I enjoy, I've done expireds in the past. I enjoy that sort of thing, but I seem to have more success with relationships. So this business seemed to be a way to, work with attorneys in the sense that they're like referral partners, and that made sense to me. But you're adding listings pretty consistently instead of like working a referral base. You sell someone a house, they're likely going to live there for a while, so it might be a while before they become a past client to use you again. So I liked the idea that this kind of combines those two.
And you're building those relationships with referral partners who have basically an endless need for a realtor.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping, and that's definitely what it's proving to be. 5 years in, I'm seeing how the attorneys are starting to lean on me, and I'm not having to prove myself to them. Of course, if they're a new attorney to me, I do, but I'm becoming known. I had lunch with an attorney 3 weeks ago, and she's actually the first attorney I ever met with. I think before I was even done with the program. And so this was our second time meeting. She said, "So does everybody just automatically use you?" Because in my circles of attorneys, everybody knows Theresa Bastian. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, thank you for saying that." But no, they don't. So we could keep that going.
Yeah, that is what percentage of your business now is divorce?
Last winter, when you led us in a business planning workshop, I was actually, and we separated the numbers of our traditional business and our divorce business. Mine was actually about 40% divorce.
Wow.
So wow. It was significant. And I wanted to say one more thing, even though you didn't ask me. I was kind of astonished, actually, because, every once in a while there's a divorce listing that is just, it is what it's an as-is sale. You don't maybe have cooperation or the sellers are done and you're just kind of trying to get that done and move on. But my average price, my sold price, was actually higher for my divorce listings than my traditional business. And my traditional business is over the average.
Interesting.
Yes. So you remember, I think you remember the ones that are a little cringy, but in general, these are nice, solid priced listings. So,
wow.
To mention.
Wow, that is fascinating. You know, you and I were talking earlier about how the the approach to the divorce business and basically the systems that you've implemented has actually impacted your ability to, you know, be a little bit more remote working and so forth. Talk to us a little bit about that.
This is actually one of the things I'm most excited about. I've been in real estate over 25 years. I know I started as a child, obviously, but I've been doing this a long time. I've worked as a coach in organizations. I've worked for large franchises. I've owned a large franchise. I've got a lot of time on task here. And what I didn't expect from joining your program was that the tools and the systems and the process that you have laid out for us to use with divorcing clients, it's exactly useful for our non-divorcing clients. And being systematic and following the steps as you outlined them, it has allowed me to be much more in control of my time for all of my business, not just the divorcing. And I have family in other states. I'm a new grandma and the grandbaby doesn't live in Austin. I have a house in Costa Rica. I could not have told you that I could do this much business and not be with my feet on Austin soil very often. I don't like to say how often I'm not here to the general public, but I'm meeting with sellers virtually. I'm following the process. They know what to expect. They know when they're going to see my face and when I'm going to be physically present. And it's absolutely helped me build a business that allows so much travel and time with my family I couldn't have imagined.
Wow, that's incredible. You've gotten so much, like you said, so much time and in control of your time, so much more.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Teresa, what advice would you give, you know, there to an agent who's looking to get into the divorce niche? There are many agents, especially in markets like we've got now, where they're looking for that, you know, they're looking for that next thing. They're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more solid and so forth. So what advice would you give?
Well, I appreciate that question because I mean that's who I was when I started. I wanted something more in my business and I didn't quite know what it was, so I was researching. So I think when you're doing this kind of research, you need to know yourself. You need to know what you're willing to put in. It's not like you go knock on a lawyer's door and they say, "Oh, thank goodness, I've been looking for a certified divorce real estate expert." Okay, they see it as a sales call initially, so you have to be able to make, you know, progress with that. And Alumni gives us many fascinating marketing tools. You don't have to create things from scratch. We do have value to bring to the family law community, but you have to be willing to deliver that value. And so there's persistence involved. It's not a quick fix. I would say you need to make sure you have a budget. When I bring a new agent onto my brokerage, I always like to say, like, what is your savings? Because just because you got your real estate license doesn't mean you're going to have a closing next month. Similar with this.
Paycheck,
right?
yeah.
I usually say, are you prepared to go 6 months for a new agent? And I think it's probably about the same as you're working on building your divorce business, going through the training, getting your database together, understanding what tools you have to offer, and then going out in the world and offering them. It does take a process. So if you're at a place where you're looking for like the Hail Mary, like one thing, it's got to work one time.
Yeah.
This probably isn't that. It's an entire system that if you can give it the time and the attention, it will transform your business. But it's not like you get letters behind your name and, you know, balloons come out everywhere you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also, something else that I failed to mention when I was, you know, doing your introduction, is that you also are a mentor and an advisor to new students who are coming through the program and those that complete the program that are going into their
Like,
that
go
are taking what they've learned and implementing it into their business. So you see a lot, and I would assume that your answer also comes from things that you have seen,
right. I have a pretty
some that
large
you've
sample
seen.
group.
Yeah, you do. And so the ones that do thrive and succeed, compared to the ones that you know that don't, that struggle and maybe lose that faith or hope or tenacity or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think even the fact that Alumni offers this coaching at no additional charge speaks to the strength of your organization, and that we want the other CDREs to have results. We want the new ones to get results, because every
Yeah,
CDRE that is making an impact in their market elevates all of our impact. So
absolutely.
yes, it really is. My work as a coach is, it's partially to help them, and it's also to help me, because if we're collaborating and we're pushing each other, it's really a community. And for me, I'm an independent broker. There are a couple independent broker meetups around Austin, but they're not necessarily doing the level of business that I am, or it's more personality based, which can be fun. There's a place for that. But I really feel like this has allowed me to build a community of like-minded agents who really have a mission to change the way divorcing sellers can handle their liquidation of their assets, and it should be better, and we're making it better. So
Wow.
I mean, it's kind of a long-winded way to say, we do get into action, and that's one of it's not a passive program. Even though we meet virtually and there's some Zooms on your calendar, it's active. And if you are always in the car driving, just listening in the background, you're not implementing. So are you ready to implement? I would ask yourself that.
That's really good. That's a really good distinction. You're absolutely right. I love that. Shifting gears a little bit, so you have seen a lot personally. You've been through a lot. You've seen a lot professionally. What advice would you give to anyone who might be listening to this, who is a divorcing homeowner, someone who's maybe going to be facing some real estate challenges, or who's maybe in the middle of it right now? What advice would you give to them?
I would say that there are professionals who can help you, and it doesn't have to be as hard as you think it is. I am divorced, and twice, and one was not easy at all. It was horrific. And I think being able to look someone in the eye and say, this does end, you get through it, is important. For a divorcing homeowner, sometimes I meet people, it can be male or female, but they have one goal, and that's to keep that house. And I just want to sometimes say, it might not be the smartest thing long term. Like, can you afford the upkeep? Can you afford the property taxes? A lot of times people want to keep the house or the kids. Kids are usually more resilient than we are, to be honest. And if a family is, newly divorced and struggling financially, and you've got this house hanging like a millstone around your neck, it might be freer to start fresh and have a little extra in the budget if you let go of the big house. So I just like to, I think that's the biggest thing, that sometimes people take that at face value. I'm keeping the house. And I think it's worth just asking questions. I'm not trying to force anyone to make a decision, but begin with the end in mind. Think what it looks like 2 years from now, once this divorce is settled. Did you really win by keeping the house? So I think those conversations need to happen.
That's good. Very, very good advice. And along those same lines, again, you've been through the process, and you also work in the process as a family law professional who handles the real estate aspect of a case. What advice would you give to family law attorneys when they have a case that involves real estate?
Well, the main advice is to seek out your certified divorce expert that's in your market. A lot of times a family lawyer doesn't know this exists. They may know there are psychologists that can come and testify to someone's whatever in court. There are forensic accountants that can testify. some of our markets don't even know that there are real estate experts who are trained in this capacity. So first, my advice would be just, look in our directory, see where the closest one is, and go get coffee, have a conversation, because we are likely going to make your life a lot easier. The things I help my attorneys with can be as varied as, really quick, what do you think the market's going to do with this neighborhood? Do you think we should file now or wait 6 months? Could be just a quick conversation. It could be a formal valuation that they're paying me to do that they can use in mediation. It could be, I got one recently where the attorney had 2 different appraisals on the same property, and they were $130,000 apart. So she hired me to write a narrative of what I thought strengths and weaknesses or why the differences between those appraisals. So she is leveraging my industry knowledge instead of her trying to look at that appraisal report and sleuth it out on her own and spend however many hours that she has to charge her client for. So once you make the connection with the CDRE, I think you'll find you can offload some of the real estate aspects from your plate so you can focus on the things only you can do.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. You're absolutely right. You can be you can be their phone a friend, or you could, all the way from they've got maybe just a real estate problem that they want you to help them solve or give them some insight, all the way to being an expert that is hired in their case to handle as much or as little as they need. So that's
it doesn't always result in me providing testimony on the stand. I mean, I've done that, and you've trained me well to do that. But a lot of cases, they need your insight, and they never end up going to court. That's kind of the goal, is to settle out of court.
Yeah. So for family law attorneys, find the CDRE that's serving your area, because they can be a wealth of information and help in your cases. Awesome, Theresa. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing. Thank you for being part of our community, a leader in our community, and keep doing the good work.
Thank you for the opportunity.